Hello guys, I am Sketching Thoughts, and today we are going to explore something that is often misunderstood. Why do some people genuinely prefer being alone rather than surrounding themselves with fake friendships? Is it because they're antisocial? Because they think they're better than everyone else? Or is there something much deeper happening inside the mind? Let's find out. Have you ever looked at your phone, scrolled through dozens of contacts, and still felt like there wasn't a single person you actually wanted to call? Not because you hated people, but because every conversation felt empty. You smiled, you replied, you showed up, yet something inside you whispered, none of this feels real. Most people think loneliness comes from being alone, but sometimes the deepest loneliness happens while sitting in a room full of people pretending to care. And if you've ever walked away from friendships simply because they felt fake, this video isn't really about being alone. It's about why your brain begins protecting something much more valuable, your emotional energy. But to understand that, we first have to understand what fake friendships actually do to the mind. A fake friendship rarely starts as fake. It usually begins with hope. You trust, you share stories, you laugh, you believe you've found your people. Then little things begin to happen. They only message you when they need something. They disappear when you're struggling. They celebrate your failures more than your successes. Conversations become performances instead of connections. You start editing your personality before speaking. Not because you're dishonest, but because you're trying to avoid judgment. Psychologists call this self-monitoring. It's the process of constantly adjusting your behavior based on how you think other people will react. A little self-monitoring is healthy, but when it becomes constant, your brain never truly relaxes. Every conversation becomes mental work. Every interaction feels like an exam. Instead of asking, do I enjoy this person? Your mind keeps asking, am I saying the right thing? And slowly, relationships stop feeling like home. They begin feeling like a workplace. Here's something interesting. Your brain doesn't simply measure the number of friends you have. It measures something psychologists call relationship quality. Research consistently shows that one emotionally safe relationship is often more protective for mental well-being than dozens of shallow ones. Why? Because the human nervous system isn't searching for popularity. It's searching for safety. When someone consistently judges you, competes with you, or makes you feel emotionally unpredictable, your brain starts treating social interaction as a possible threat. The same stress systems activated by physical danger can become active during emotionally unsafe relationships. Not because someone punched you, but because uncertainty itself is exhausting. Your brain begins asking, is this person safe? Long before it asks, is this person fun? This is where many people misunderstand those who enjoy solitude. They assume you just gave up on people, but often that's not what happened at all. You didn't choose isolation, you chose peace. There's an important difference. Behavioral psychology teaches us that the brain repeats experiences that reduce stress. Imagine touching a hot stove. Your brain quickly learns to avoid it. Social experiences work similarly. If repeated friendships leave you emotionally drained, your brain begins associating solitude with relief, not because solitude is perfect, but because it feels safer. This is called negative reinforcement. You're not rewarded with happiness, you're rewarded with the removal of emotional discomfort. That's why staying home sometimes feels surprisingly comforting. Your nervous system isn't celebrating loneliness, it's celebrating the absence of emotional danger. But here's the question. Can protecting yourself eventually become another kind of prison? We'll come back to that. Think of your brain as a city. Every repeated experience builds roads. The more often a road is used, the wider it becomes. If you've repeatedly experienced disappointment in friendships, your brain strengthens the road toward caution. Soon, choosing solitude doesn't even feel like a decision. It feels automatic. Neuroscientists call this neural efficiency. The brain prefers familiar pathways because they require less energy, even if those pathways aren't always ideal. Here's a simple mental model. Imagine your emotional energy as your phone battery. Healthy relationships recharge it. Fake friendships constantly leave background apps running. They're always consuming power. Small gossip, hidden competition, pretending to agree, walking on eggshells. Individually, each seems harmless. Together, they drain your battery before the day even ends. No wonder silence starts feeling refreshing. Before we continue, if you've ever felt more understood by silence than by shallow conversations, take a moment to like this video. And if these psychology videos help you understand yourself a little better, subscribe to Sketching Thoughts. You might discover that many experiences you've called strange are actually deeply human. Now, let's look at something even more important, because choosing solitude isn't automatically healthy. Sometimes it becomes avoidance, and the difference matters. Here's a question. Do you enjoy being alone, or are you afraid of being disappointed again? Those aren't the same thing. Attachment theory suggests that past relationships shape how we expect future ones to unfold. If trust repeatedly leads to pain, the brain begins predicting pain before connection even starts. Prediction is one of the brain's favorite jobs. It constantly asks, what's most likely to happen next? If your predictions become, people always leave, or nobody actually cares, then withdrawing feels logical, not because it's objectively necessarily true, but because your brain believes it's protecting you. Protection isn't always accurate. It's simply familiar. So how do you know whether your solitude is healthy? Here are 4 principles grounded in psychology. First, choose people who reduce self-monitoring. Notice who allows you to stop performing. When you're around emotionally safe people, your brain spends less energy predicting judgment. Real-life example, think about the friend you don't rehearse conversations with. That's usually emotional safety in action. Second, pay attention to how your body feels after conversations. The nervous system often notices truth before conscious thought does. Do you feel lighter or strangely exhausted? If every interaction leaves you emotionally depleted, that's valuable information. Your body is collecting data your mind hasn't fully processed yet. Third, prioritize depth over quantity. According to self-determination theory, humans thrive when relationships support authenticity, autonomy, and genuine connection. You don't need 20 people checking your stories. You need one person who notices when your voice sounds different. The brain values emotional consistency far more than social volume. Fourth, don't let protection become permanent isolation. Healing doesn't happen by trusting everyone, but it also doesn't happen by trusting no one. Instead, treat trust like gradually increasing the weight at a gym. You don't lift the heaviest weight on day 1. You build tolerance. One honest conversation, one reliable person, one consistent experience. Over time, your brain updates its predictions. That's how neuroplasticity works. Repeated safe experiences slowly reshape old expectations. Maybe the goal was never to become someone who loves being alone forever. Maybe the goal was simply to stop accepting relationships that made you feel lonely anyway. There's a difference. One is isolation. The other is discernment. Imagine your social life as a garden. Not every seed deserves your water. Protecting your peace doesn't mean building walls around your entire life. It means learning which connections actually deserve your energy, because emotional energy is limited and your brain spends it carefully. The people who prefer being alone over fake friendships aren't always running away from others. Sometimes they're running toward authenticity, toward quiet, toward relationships that don't require pretending. And maybe that's the lesson. Your worth isn't measured by how many people surround you. It's measured by how freely you can be yourself when someone does. The mind isn't looking for constant attention. It's looking for emotional safety. When it finds that, even silence no longer feels lonely. It simply feels peaceful. Thank you for spending these moments with me. If today's video made you see yourself, or someone you know, in a different way, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, take care of your mind, because the way you understand it today shapes the life you experience tomorrow.